Jamie, what does the word gaslight mean? I don't mean to put you on the spot if you don't feel comfortable answering the question. But I know you're on the internet a lot, so maybe you'd know.
Oh my God. I feel like it's actually pretty misused, but it's basically when you tell somebody that their own perceptions are tricking them, right? Like people use it in reference to abusers a lot. Like, oh, that didn't happen, honey. You're just confused.
Right. Where you're trying to basically convince somebody that they're a little bit crazy for believing something. You must be on the internet all the time, because my understanding is that's an internet term, according to Dave Rubin.
Well.
Oh, and we should just say, this is, who did this clip? This is from,
Dave on Twitter.
Dave Rubin clips on Clips Dave on Twitter. It is a juxtaposition between Dave Rubin making a mistake and correcting himself. The whole thing is just sort of bizarre to me, but go ahead.
I actually made a factual error last week. You're not going to believe it. I am not the perfect human being. I was talking about gaslighting last week, which is an internet tactic.
Well, this is a pet peeve of mine. This whole thing, and I've encountered this in many different areas of my life. When someone makes a mistake and says, I'm not a perfect human being, I'm not a perfect person. And, I don't think there's necessarily expectations that you're a perfect person. I've always found that when someone responds to something like that, I've always found that to be indicative of maybe a little narcissism or something like that, like where I have to respond to this critique, perfectly legitimate critique, by saying that you're expecting me to be perfect and without flaw. No, it's just somebody's pointing out a flaw. That's all right. People are flawed. Everybody knows that. But go ahead. That's just my own personal little
gaslighting last week, which is an internet tactic.
Go back.
Basically, what I'm about. I actually made a factual error last week. You're not going to believe it. I am not the perfect human being. I was talking about gaslighting last week, which is an internet tactic. And basically what I said was something to the effect of that gaslighting is when you attack people online so over the top they don't even really know how to respond. That's actually not quite right. Gaslighting is when, in effect, it's a phrase that sort of was born online because it's the idea that you go sort of so over the top with your response to somebody that it burns down the whole house. So instead of making like a cogent point, if you're arguing with somebody, instead of making like just a sensible point, you gaslight them, meaning you just say something so crazy or so over the top that you've just destroyed the whole thing. Now, a few people did attack me. Oh, Rubin doesn't know what he's talking about. He got the definition of gaslighting wrong. Okay. But actually, most people said, we like you, Dave. You dropped the ball on this one. A lot of people sent me links and the rest of it. So I do want to correct.
We like it's like what? Wait, so yeah, I made a mistake the other day. I somehow was under the impression that Glenn Greenwald went on the Hannity program, and he did not go on the Hannity program. He had gone on the Tucker Carlson program, which we had known for a long time. I brought it up because I assumed I had seen this, and somebody was defending him from going on Hannity, and I want to say a couple of people said to me that I was wrong, but other people said I'm a good guy. So. I'll stick with you're a good guy and you're a good dad. So, but anyways, let's go back to Dave Rubin.
And the rest of it. So I do want to correct what the definition of gaslighting is. So the actual definition of gaslight is in reference to the 1944 movie aptly titled Gaslight, which is to manipulate someone by psychological means into questioning their own sanity. That is actually the sort of internet 2020 definition of gaslight. When I was saying, you just keep saying things that are so over the top, it's like people don't know how to respond. That seems like an offshoot. I would say that's an offshoot of gaslighting. But hey, I'm not the perfect human being, guys.
Is the non-perfect human being going to have to issue a correction on his saying that's an offshoot of what he was saying?
Yeah, I'm actually impressed that he got it this wrong, because a lot of people use it incorrectly to just mean lying. But this feels like a few steps further down the road of wrongness.
No, it's when you say something so much that you burn the house down because you let the gas light on. I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how he made that error. And it's the sort of thing where it's like, if you say something like, oh, Dave, that guest of yours has previously like denied the Holocaust happened. Does that him? Oh, well, that's so crazy. I guess everything's burned down now. He can't actually like go back and look at, actually, my guest did do that. And I
He used another one of Dave Rubin's favorite, illusions. This is kind of like 1984 all over again.
Yeah, it's amazing. Is there any more for?
That's it.
That's
well,
it?
remember when he misused circling the wagons?
Oh yeah.
To be the exact.
We need like a glossary of Rubinisms.
He meant to be like the sharks are circling, but circling the wagons.
I feel like that's indicative of Dave not reading very much. It's like when you get when you like. It's one thing to sort of like mispronounce, words that you've only read. That's a sign like where you get a sense of someone's like what they know is from what they've read. But when you don't know things like circling the wagons or gaslighting, it suggests to me that he's really incurious. But I think that we already sort of knew that about.
Yeah.
I love his commitment to being an internet thing as well, and not this, principle that's been around since a play from the 1930s.
Yeah, I mean, I remember learning about what gaslight meant because of there's a band called the Gaslight Anthem, right? And so like that's where I learned about that. So this is not just a new internet 2020 thing.
Ironically,
no doubt about it. It has gotten much more. It has gotten much more popular, much more popularly used, I think. Particularly because of the idea of fake news and the idea of basically a president getting up there and saying, up is down and down is up, that type of thing. But it just strikes me as sort of I don't know, for a guy who says like Twitter's not real life and get off, that he's like, I don't know, he perceives that word as the internet 2020. It's just communication, and you just didn't understand what people have been talking about all this time. That's all.
Well,
It's a means of communication, and you just didn't understand what everybody was saying.
Yeah, it's actually interesting how stable that definition has been, despite how popularly it's being used.
Mm-hmm. Well, the important thing to remember is Dave Rubin is extremely not mad, and he extremely has a life outside of online. So all you haters can go leave the gaslight on at your own house and torch yourself, because that's what you're doing when you criticize Dave Rubin.
How's this for a button? It turns out that the Gaslight Anthem band is fronted by a man named Brian Fallon.
Crazy.
Named our guest today.
It all comes full circle.
Full circle. Rubin's ability to not know what's happening is pretty impressive. I mean, I gotta say. Seriously. And that point about the stability of it. Do you know that saying, Rolling Stone gathers no moss? Are you guys familiar with that?
Of course.
I always assumed growing up that it was a positive attribute to not gather moss. Right, like that saying was like, you want to keep. I always interpreted that saying as meaning you want to keep moving, right? You don't want to like atrophy on some level. Is that how you guys understand that?
Is that what you told your girlfriends when you had to keep it moving?
No, but did you guys not? Do you guys?
Yeah, no, I understood it as you don't want that moss on you, so keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I feel like this is very gendered because it implied something quite different to me.
What did it imply to you?
I mean, I guess I hadn't thought about it that deeply until just now when you brought it up. But like, I don't know. I thought of moss as like a good thing, like baggage, like human relationships.
Roots are
like,
good.
You're right. the way that, I mean, I was reading, that I had presumed that it meant you don't want to gather moss. And I read of human bondage. I don't know, this is probably 25 years ago or something. I just remember this distinctly. And I had read it, and simultaneously my step-grandfather at the same time had said the same thing to me. And it was almost like a cautionary phrase. Like, you keep moving around, you're not going to grow any roots type of thing.
Yeah.
And
moss is good.
It turns out moss is good, but I don't know how it's interpreted today. I still am unclear because, maybe it was because, like, I don't know, Bob Dylan made it romantic, like a Rolling Stone type of thing. I don't know.
The song that launched a million fuckboys. There
you go.
Say yas to the moss. That's what I say.
I mean, I'm still, I just thought I found it interesting that I was under the perception anyways, that the meaning had changed over the course of whatever it was, the 70, 80 years that I had been, at least it had been in usage as far as I could date it back to Somerset Maugham, because I think he wrote that in like the maybe, I don't know, first decade or two of
1918 or something like that, I think.